And what was Niall like as a teacher?
The way he would give feedback sometimes would border on lighthearted, but also with a bit of a punch to it. You'd have certain phrases, like if you're playing too fast, he'd just sort of yell out, "Where's the fire?" Or if we're too like meek when we're playing, he'll say, "I wouldn't be able to hear you if you were playing behind a wet paper bag."
I actually think that's pretty decent and fair of you. I grew up in mid-county Antrim in a town called Ballymena. It's known for Liam Neeson. Everybody knows, who actually coincidentally went to school with my mother and her two sisters.
Was the fiddle your first instrument?
To be honest, I think it was piano. But I was one of these kids that did everything. I did sports, I did Irish step dancing, I did singing, I did... I was involved in everything, swimming at school,
Did you even have any time left for real schooling? Like, did you learn any math at school?
my mother said, pick something, narrow it down. So I stuck with the fiddle, even though I found that was more challenging.
So then when you started focusing primarily on the fiddle, was there a well-known teacher locally that you learned from, or did you learn from several people?
I would say I learned from several people. I started in school like most kids do, literally Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in primary school, and that was with the headmaster's wife. So I was probably about 10 years old, and I remember it was very challenging. I had a violin borrowed from school, and it had gut strings. You wouldn't even see them nowadays, but they were pretty prevalent years ago. They weren't pretty sounding, and I wasn't pretty sounding either. So fair play to my parents, like, for sticking it out. There weren't a lot of teachers at that time nearby. So it was by chance I sought one out, and that was Tommy McGoldrick, who was a family friend and a former All-Ireland champion on fiddle. Dylan's brother Jake actually won the All-Ireland title also in slow airs, and actually happened to win the cup that Tommy, my fiddle teacher, won. Talk about passing on the tradition and, coming back. It was a nice feeling.
And when did you feel like you were ready to teach other people?
So I didn't actually feel ready when I was thrown into it, and it kind of happened as an accident. I was probably between 17 and 19. I was already steadily playing for Irish dance competitions, and I would travel a lot playing for feshes around the country. But one of our local cultist branches in Portland, County Antrim, they had a fiddle class taught by a brilliant fiddle player, Rosie Mulholland. She's a fiddle player in a well-known trad outfit called Janta, and they were huge back in the 90s. They got signed up by a record label, and they were doing a lot of touring, so she was not in the position to be the regular teacher in the cultist branch, and they reached out to me and asked me as an older teenager to take over. And first I found it a little tough, to be honest. They had really big classes, and I had a lot of rambunctious teenagers.
Oh boy.
So you had to be a little tough, and I don't really like being Mr. Tough Guy all the time. So, I'm very, very grateful for the start that they gave me, and I've been teaching ever since.
At what point did you move to America?
So I moved to the United States in the mid-90s. I was involved with Riverdance, the show, as a dancer. I danced in the show for a few years, and then after that, I was based in Queens, actually. Ended up working in a bar, and did that for quite a few years. The opportunity arose. They were looking for a music teacher at the New York Irish Centre. So I thought, well, this is my chance to get back into music. I didn't. I should add that I didn't play for a couple of years in that bartending area because I actually had a fiddle stolen.
Oh
So
no,
yeah, I didn't play for a couple of years. On top of
that sounds heartbreaking.
it was tough, but it came also on the heels of losing a very close friend that I was involved with on the trad scene, and so I kind of just took a break.
Hmm.
So once the opportunity came to start teaching again, I kind of saw it almost like a sign, like
Hmm.
maybe to just go with the flow and see what happens. And I'm very happy that I did.
Do you think that having been a dancer helps with playing music for dancers because you know what it's like to be on the other end?
Absolutely, it does. To me, like dance tunes have to be danceable. If they're not danceable, then really what's the point? You know, you can listen to airs, you can listen to songs, but dance tunes, you should be able to move to them. So I do think it helps, especially with being able to get a little bit of drive and lift into the play.
I think good dance tunes, regardless of whether there's actually a dancer there, I drive is a good thing. A lot of the time, as you're playing, you're watching what people are doing because the whoever's leading the dance is going to give you cues, and you're going to watch what they're doing. You're going to figure out, okay, here's when we're going to be ending.
Hmm. And when did you start teaching Dylan?
I would actually have to leave that question to Dylan because it seems so long ago. Don't remember. I remember I took Dylan and his older brother both around the same time.
I seem to remember maybe Jake was a little bit before me, but
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah,
I think you might be.
we were in different like groups.
Yeah,
Like
you were in
I don't,
different levels at the start because you started.
yeah.
I think you're right. Yeah. So
I think Jake had been taking lessons with a guy named Peter Martin a little bit before.
yeah, because I remember when he started, all as he could play was Frere Jacques.
Yeah. Yes. So
And it was now. Bear in mind, this kid has placed at the All Irelands 3 times. He makes a steady income as a professional musician. Has travelled the world playing, but I remember thinking, "Oh my God! All as he can play is Frere Jacques. His technique is poor. His left hand is bad. His both hand is bad. How am I going to fix this?"
But you fixed it, it seems like.
But there was always just, I have to say, there was always just something about his drive and enjoyment. I think it's very important that you enjoy it too.
very motivated, and it's because you like the music, right? Like
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah. And I always did notice that. And he always took correction well. There's other kids I'd say, you're doing this wrong. No, I'm not.
But
Okay. Just trying to help you here. Some kids would give you that, but never. His brother consistently got better and better and better. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, how did this happen?
Dylan, is your family musical? Because you and your brother both seem to have taken really well to instruments.
Yeah. So my mother got a BA in music before she went on a different career path. My mom's side of the family very musical. There was the sort of river dance wave in the 90s sort of caught up Jake, and then by extension myself. There was an interest in sort of the dancing and then the music. But both my brother and I also dance. Now, when I first started taking lessons with you, I came in with a certain cohort of students. You were the first music teacher I ever had. So there was a period of time where we weren't really learning. We were sort of learning out of a book. How often were you in that sort of situation where you're not really teaching tunes yet, but you're more teaching someone how to play the instrument?
So when I start beginners, I actually do have a go-to book that I use to just get the basics down with rhythm, timing, literacy, and bowing also. Once we get to a certain stage in the book, and I feel that I can start learning tunes, that's when I start the learning of tunes. But I do think it's very important to get the basics down first.
And what was Niall like as a teacher? Was he very stern, say you have to practice and do your homework, or was he pretty laid back and chill?
He was, I think, a mixture of both. It's interesting to hear Niall say his first experience teaching was with a lot of rowdy teenagers, because the way he would give feedback sometimes would border on lighthearted, but also with a bit of a punch to it. Like, you'd have certain phrases. If you're playing too fast, he'd just sort of yell out, "Where's the fire?" If we're too like meek when we're playing, he'll say, "I wouldn't be able to hear you if you were playing behind a wet paper bag." And so there's a certain like playfulness.
I actually think that's pretty decent and fair of you. I will say I do think in the early days I was a little tougher than I am now, because I kind of realize you have to want it yourself. You really do have to want it yourself. So I've like bent over backwards to keep kids at it, and they've got really good. I've had kids that have placed consistently at regionals and then given up for sports. Just, it's very heartbreaking, but at the same time, I've kind of learned over the years to go in with no expectations. If you have no expectations, you're not going to like consistently disappoint it. So
Yeah.
Do you find it disappointing when you think that they have a lot of promise and then they give it up for something else and they stop playing?
of course, it's always a very hard thing to take as a teacher, especially when you know that they've got the gift of music. But what I always try and do is to always make sure that they know that the door's still always open and that it's never too late to come back. And one of the biggest life lessons I got when I was teaching was in that very first class where I taught. I walked in with a preconception when I looked at one of the adult students. She was 86. And I thought, oh, God. And when I first heard her play, she squealed. And after time, she actually improved. And she told me it was because she was always in classes where nobody really paid attention to her, and she actually paid attention to her. And that was the reason she got better. And they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Nonsense. You can always learn something new. We're never too old.
Dylan, in your own teaching now, do you feel like there's elements of teaching style that you got from Niall?
I think a bit. Niall wasn't only great as a teacher in the classroom, but he was really supportive of us as young players in the Irish music scene. He would encourage us to go and play with other musicians. We would play in youth groups, playing Group of Kjol or Cayley Band, and Niall would introduce us to those opportunities and say, okay, so you want to play with other people. Here's who you can go to. I've spoken to them. You can go and play in this person's band. And when it came to playing in Ireland in their international competition, in order to make money to afford the airfare, myself and a lot of Niall's other students, we would go and busk, and Niall would help us put together sets. I feel like Niall, there was a large emphasis of going beyond the classroom.
Well, it sounds like Niall really had a much larger influence over your musical life than just the technique.
For sure. Yes.
Right?
And I think when I'm teaching students now, as Niall said, you can't force someone to play. You can't force someone who's not interested. But I think it's good to encourage people to go to sessions, go and listen to this music, show them where those opportunities lie, where you can play music outside of the classroom. There's a whole community out there. And I think Niall was very good at exposing us to that and encouraging us to engage more deeply in that way.
So you started off learning the fiddle, Dylan. Brian had told me that the Irish banjo is tuned like the fiddle, and sometimes he picks up tune just by watching what the fiddle players are doing. Did you find that it was easy for you to pick up the banjo?
Yes, in some ways it was easy because, like you said, it's tuned the same way. So your fingering on your left hand is exactly the same as, or very similar to what you would do on the fiddle. The right hand, I'd say, is a completely different beast. With the fiddle, you have the ability to sustain notes. The banjo, your right hand, it's a very rhythmic instrument. You can't hold notes out very long. Creates this need for you to kind of be playing notes all the time. You hear these virtuosos who are very who can play very fast and are very good at doing triplets, these quick stuff, and people go, I want to do that. But it's very difficult. You need a lot of control and you need to be relaxed.
You mentioned that you also have learned some Americana. Do you find there's a major difference in how you would play?
In terms of the Americana stuff I've done, the main difference I would say is that there's more of an emphasis on harmony, whereas with Irish music, a lot of the time, melody is king. So the people driving the sessions will be the fiddles, the pipes, or the flute players, like kind of leading that melody. And then it's kind of up to the rhythm or the barn players, the guitarists, or the piano players to follow that. When I was learning Americana music, it was more of a case of, okay, here's the chord progression, and then we'll do like an 8-bar break where you're just soloing. And that would be the instance. You're playing notes.
Is there any parting wisdom that you want to share?
I didn't always find the fiddle easy. And the message I would like to just push out there is if you persevere at something, you'll get it. No matter how hard it is, you'll get better at it. Believe me, my Twinkle Twinkle Little Star was nothing to listen to. It would have made your ears bleed, but here we are. So anyway, just keep at it.
I completely agree. Don't get discouraged if you're having difficulty. That's proof that like you're pushing yourself. If it was easy for you, you wouldn't be learning anything. So, and even the best players in the world, they've got stuff that about their playing that they're not satisfied with. Just being comfortable with whatever level you're at and always pushing yourself. You know,
That's great.
yeah, and having fun with it.